The following is a presentation of Hockey Night in Canada in association with the National Hockey League.
Winnipeg, it's where I grew up.
It's awesome to be a hockey player in this town.
Always enjoy going back there. It was a great hockey town.
It's amazing how some things don't change over the years.
We've built this relationship, and it'll never go away.
He beats Olsen. Messьer cutting and shoots, scores! What a play!
When you're having fun and life is good, time will fly by real fast.
Allen Benson, go score!
Great memories. I'm so happy that I started my career here.
Gets around Redmond, forced to the corner, centers, and Howard check all alone, scores!
We're kids too with dreams, and everybody should have their dreams. The greatest thing about hockey is the people you meet. It's nothing like it. It's the greatest game in the world.
Hello, Canada and hockey fans, the United States and Newfoundland.
He scores!
Saturday. It's going to be a really good day in Winnipeg. The whole city suggests happiness. Investors Group Field opened in 2013. The first event here was the One Heart Celebration, which was a multi-denominational church service. But when you think about the game, Don, when you think about the game, our religion, our shared heart round hockey, you can see why there are so many smiles for the Oilers and Jets and the Tim Hortons Heritage Classic Alumni game. The first two concerts they held here, Taylor Swift and Paul McCartney, is kind of like having Wayne Grettzky or Mark Messьer and Dale Howard-Chuck on the same stage. Really amazing. All these lines across my face tell a story of who I am. All these stories tell of where I've been. But of course, the stories wouldn't mean anything if it weren't for you. These men were, it's true, made for you. It's a very special day. Obviously, we have 5 NHL games tonight, but you know, on the prairies, you can see forever. 2 prairie towns. Edmonton, you can almost see Edmonton on a sunny day like today. Ben Hatskin saw farther than most. He's the man who brought Bobby Hull here in 1972. Without Bobby, no WHA. Ultimately, no Edmonton Oilers and Wayne Grettzky. What a day. Jay Richardson's the public address announcer. The Oilers and the Jets kickstart our weekend. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the 2016 Rogers NHL Heritage Classic Alumni Game. Please welcome the alumni players from the Edmonton Oilers. Please welcome the alumni players from your Winnipeg Jets. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet the Oilers coaching staff. Oilers head coach from 94 to 99, Manitoba's own Ron Lowe. A 5-time Stanley Cup winner in Edmonton. He captured the first 4 as an assistant and was the Oilers head coach for their 1990 victory, John Muckler. He coached the team to 4 Stanley Cups. Hall of Famer, Glenn Sather. And now the players. Winner of 3 Norris trophies and the second highest scoring defenseman in NHL history, Hall of Famer, number 7, Paul Coffey. He scored a franchise record 72 game-winning goals for the Oilers. 6-time Stanley Cup winner, Hall of Famer, number 9, Glenn Anderson. Drafted by the Oilers in 1983 with an amazing 15 seasons in the NHL, number 10, Esa Tикканен. He played in the NHL for 25 years, a 15-time All-Star, 2-time Hart Trophy MVP, a Conn Smythe winner, 2 Lester B. Pearson Awards, and 6 Stanley Cups. Hall of Famer, number 11, Mark Messьer. He scored the 1984 Stanley Cup winning goal. Number 13, Ken Lindsmann. In 1979-80, he sniped 46 goals in his rookie season. Number 14, B.J. McDonald. He played 17 NHL seasons and won 3 Stanley Cups with the Oilers. He was the Oilers head coach as well for 10 seasons. Number 14, Craig McTavish. An 18-year NHL veteran. He was the Oilers captain from 95 to 99 and is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Number 16, Kelly Buchberger. He's a 5-time Stanley Cup champion and Hockey Hall of Famer. Number 17, Jari Kurri. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion and one of hockey's most respected broadcasters. Number 18, Craig Simpson. He hoisted the cup twice with the Edmonton Oilers. Number 20, Dave Lumley. In 10 NHL seasons, he earned 5 Stanley Cups. Number 21, Randy Gregg. He hoisted the cup 5 times with the Oilers and is currently assistant coach of your Winnipeg Jets. Number 22, Charlie Huddy. One of the Oilers' most respected on-ice leaders. Number 24, Steve Staios. A 3-time Stanley Cup champion with the Oilers. Number 26, Mike Krushelnitsky. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Oilers. Number 27, Dave Semeko. He hoisted the Stanley Cup 3 times over 4 seasons. Number 28, Craig Muni. He helped lead the Oilers to their 5th Stanley Cup in 1990. Number 30, Bill Ranford. He was the first goaltender to have 30 or more wins with 5 different teams, including the Oilers. Number 31, Curtis Joseph. He helped take the Oilers to their first Stanley Cup final since 1990. Number 35, Dwayne Rollison. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Number 89, Willie Lidstrom. One of the most popular Oilers in his 15 seasons. Captain Canada, number 94, Ryan Smith. And now the Oilers captain. He rewrote the NHL record book over a legendary 20-year NHL career. His 2,857 career points are 1,000 more than anyone else. He won 8 consecutive Hart trophies with Edmonton. 4-time Stanley Cup champion, the great one, number 99, Wayne Grettzky. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your Winnipeg Jets coaching staff. The first team captain of the Winnipeg Jets and scored the first goal ever for the Jets in the World Hockey Association, Ab McDonald. He was the first coach when the team entered the NHL in 1979, Tom McVie. This hockey legend was acquired by the Jets during the 81-82 season and provided solid leadership for 2 seasons. The final coach of the Jets alumni team, Hockey Hall of Famer, Serge Savard. And now the players. He played 475 games on the Jets blue line and in 1990 scored the most famous goal in Jets history. Number 2, Dave Ellett. The youngest player on the team in his first game with the Jets in 1974. Number 3, Mike Ford. He played 7 seasons in a Jets uniform and was one of the toughest in the game. Number 6, Jim Kite. An anchor on the Jets blue line from 81 to 88 and a 2-time Olympian. Number 7, Tim Waters. Team captain in 1980 and the first Winnipeg Jet to play in the NHL All-Star Game. Number 12, Morris Lukowich. He holds the NHL record for fastest goal to start a game and played 11 seasons with your Jets. Number 12, Doug Smale. He had an NHL record smashing 76 goals as a rookie with the Jets in 92-93. A 10-time NHL All-Star and Stanley Cup champion. Number 13, the Finnish Flash, Teemu Selanne. He enjoyed 8 productive years with the Jets and was known as one of the best face-off men in Jets history. Number 16, Laurie Boschman. In 1990, he was acquired by the Jets and spent parts of 5 seasons in Winnipeg, scoring over 25 goals 3 times. Number 16, Eddie Olczyk. He was a Jets captain and the heart and soul of the team from 92 to 96. Number 17, Chris King. A member of the Jets from 82 to 87 with over 20 goals in 4 of his 4 or 5 seasons. Number 19, Brian Mullen. Drafted by the Jets in 1983, this winger played over 400 games with back-to-back seasons of 32 and 37 goals. Number 20, Andrew McBain. Drafted in 1980 by the Jets, he played parts of 7 seasons on the blue line with one of the best mustaches in Jets history. Number 22, Mo Mantha. This tough defenseman played for the Jets from 85 to 88 and again from 91 to 92. Number 22, Mario Merwa. He played 9 seasons with the Jets, scoring 75 goals. Number 24, Ron Wilson. He played more games in a Jets uniform than any other player, scoring 817 points. One of the greatest players in Jets history. Number 25, Thomas Steen. One of the greatest defensemen in Winnipeg Jets history. Number 27, Teppo Numminen. He tended goal for the Jets between 86 and 1990. Please welcome number 30, Daniel Berthiaume. He was a member of the Jets for 5 years with 506 career NHL games. Number 34, Darren Shannon. He shares the Winnipeg Jets record for wins in a season with 33. Number 35, Bob Essensa. He was one of the hardest hitting players from 1990 to 1995. Number 36, Mike Eagles. Selected 2nd overall in the 1980 NHL Draft and set a franchise record for defensemen with 19 goals and 68 points in the 81-82 season. Number 44, Dave Babbage. And now, your Jets captain. In 1981, he was drafted 1st overall and was the youngest player in NHL history to score over 100 points in a season. 5-time NHL All-Star, Hall of Famer, number 10, Dale Howardchuk. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as the colors are presented by the Canadian Armed Forces Flag Party from 17 Wing, stationed here in Winnipeg. Following the national anthem, there will be a fly past from a vintage Wings Harvard and a CT-156 Harvard II from the Royal Canadian Air Force. Back to perform the national anthem for the first time since the Winnipeg Jets' last regular season game in 1996. Please welcome Jennifer Hansen.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true note strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
On a gorgeous day in the middle of our country, in the heartland of hockey, Winnipeg and Edmonton, two teams geographically always close together in the old Smythe division, historically linked as one of the greatest teams that ever played the game and one of the greatest teams that could never win because of the other one. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Houston along with Kelly Rudy at ringside with some of our idols, some of the men who you played the game with, Kelly, some of them who we all watched so fondly through the 80s in particular. And there's one of them. Bill Ranford won the Stanley Cup with the Oilers in 1990 when Grant Fuhrer was hurt. He is one of three goaltenders who will play in the game today. And the Jets only have two. Goalie Bob gets to play today. Bob Essenza is still working actively as a goalie coach in the National Hockey League, and we'll see if he can practice what he teaches today.
You know, good point, Jim, about talking about these Winnipeg Jets and how great a team they were. I recall back in 1987, I was on the Canada Cup team with, of course, many of these guys, but Wayne Grettzky telling me on an off night that they feared the Winnipeg Jets the most. And the reason why is because the Jets played the most like the Oilers. They had a great superstar of their own in Dale Hawerchuk, but there was something unique about these Oilers and just how they figured out to win, and they were so patient, and ultimately usually put their foot in your throat, and that was it.
Grettzky and company getting set to get started against the Winnipeg Jets. Here's Scott Oak with Eddie Olczyk.
Jim, thanks very much. Yes, Eddie, what's the strategy today? Or is there any?
Short shifts. Home game for you, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to be back. It's an honor and a privilege. Thanks to Mark, Mr. Thompson, the Winnipeg Jets organization for treating us and the Oilers with first class, not surprised, and a lot of pressure. Kids are saying you better do something constructive. I don't know what that means, but
would you bellow at least once for us when we win the cup? We're bringing it back to Winnipeg. Go ahead.
You have to talk to my agent.
All right, fair enough. Hey, listen, I know you're pretty upset that that first line has Chris King with Solani and Hawerchuk.
I think there's definitely been tampering going on. I'm going to have to talk to the commissioner this week when I'm in New York, and I can't believe he bought his way to that line.
Perfect,
seriously,
Eddie.
One of those things doesn't belong there. That song on Sesame Street, that's Kinger with Solani and Hawerchuk.
You'd be a much better fit, I know it. All right, Dewey.
I think he's missing out on something. The Jets gather here. Beautiful day. It was actually too bright to play this game about an hour ago when the teams were taking a warm-up, but there's been a little cloud cover. The sun has gone down behind one of the roofs on one side of the stadium, as you can see, and it is absolutely perfect for a National Hockey League alumni game. So these teams were in the Smythe division. The old Smythe division of the NHL existed from 1974 through to 92, but through the 80s, it was the Edmonton Oilers, the Winnipeg Jets, the Calgary Flames, and primarily the Vancouver Canucks in the division. The Jets never won the division despite having some terrific seasons. The Oilers won it 7 seasons straight. Calgary Flames won it a couple. And just about every year, the Jets and the Oilers and these players in the game today met in the playoffs at some point. The Oilers won all of their Stanley Cups, and they always had to go through Winnipeg. Hall of Famer Mark Messьер snaps a shot on Bob Essenza. So we've got Messьer, Anderson, and Wayne Grettzky started in Craig Simpson's spot.
That was a 24-second shift for Wayne Grettzky. Not in my life did I ever expect that.
We were thinking that the strategy today should be go easy for 7 or 8 minutes, then get off.
Oh, I love it. This is not your regular beer league pickup game, though.
And what a sensational crowd here today, over 33,000 people. Yesterday, when these two teams, these alumni, had a loose light skate at the MTS Center, there were over 6,000 fans showed up to watch them.
What a beautiful stadium for the city of Winnipeg as well.
This guy could still play. Ryan Smith has only been retired for a couple of years, and he's out with Willie Lindstrom.
He's been playing senior hockey, keep in mind, too.
Yeah.
So he has an unfair advantage.
Willie Lindstrom just changed. He actually played for both of these teams, started with the Winnipeg Jets in the WHA. So there's Andrew McBain. Doug Smale of the Jets. He flew through those games in the 80s and still can fly.
You can tell which guys have been skating, which guys still play recreationally, and which guys are just too sore to be bothered with it anymore.
And I sure hope Bill takes this as a compliment, but he's playing the same way as he did in the 80s and 90s. This is how we all played on our backside.
And how would you describe that style?
Well,
just
the kids today
puck.
wouldn't recognize it, right?
I'm sure that sometime today we will see two pads stacking around the world.
Sure. And then a groin injury immediately afterwards.
Maybe. Grant Fuhr is here, unable to play. He's just had too many knee and hip injuries, and is a big part of it.
It's cool. Sorry, Jim.
Both of these teams had so much trouble selecting how they would put a roster together because there's so many alumni that wanted to be here. And one of the neat things that both of them have done is invited players who couldn't get into the game to be here anyway.
And many of them because of injuries. I know that's what you're alluding to at the banquet, the gala last night, which was fabulous. You and I were both there.
Absolutely.
It was funny and kind of sad, too, listening to all of us talk about our injuries and if or why they can't play or those sorts of things. But, you know, the Oilers, you're talking about bringing all these players back. Some are on the ice, some aren't. But the Oilers have, and I find this interesting, 9 former goalies here this weekend with their alumni. And pretty cool. I know Andy Moog's one of them, one of their other great goaltenders. Eddie Mio is here also. Real good collection.
And Kelly, so is Scott Oak, but I'm not sure where he is. Let's find him now. Oh, he's over on the Oiler bench.
With Ryan Smith, listen, the boys are saying you got an unfair advantage because you were playing senior hockey up until last season. Your response?
Yeah, I played playoffs. I'm the in-between, and hopefully they don't take that as an offense. Yeah.
You know, games like this, generally the approach is fun, but when you get out there and given you played so recently, do the juices get going?
Oh, absolutely. And it's obviously fun to be on this bench with these guys, Hall of Famers, guys I grew up watching and idolizing, and it's ecstatic for me.
All right, keep the shift short.
All right, short and hard.
Can somebody explain to me where they found all these old Yofa ball hockey helmets? There's a few of them. Doug Smale still wears one. Gretz isn't wearing his. Ryan Smith is. Jari Kurri's got one. So does Esa Tикканен. Yari's on the ice right now. He had a shift with Wayne. And there's our colleague Craig Simpson wearing his familiar number 18. And they've got the old gang back together. What a line this was. Glenn Anderson, Mark Messier, Craig Simpson. Moose is one of the toughest players ever to play the game and a great Hall of Famer. Anderson in the Hall of Fame would drive to the net. In fact, he did in the 1990 series and took Bob Essensa out. Stefan Beauregard had to play, and that's part of the reason that the Oilers were able to come back and win that series. And Simmer would just follow along and score all the goals, pick up everything when he got there a little bit behind the play.
No question about it, Jim. That was one of the best all-time lines. I hated playing against those guys, and for all the different reasons you mentioned. They had different skill sets and so on, and most of all, Glenn Anderson going through the crease. First penalty of the game, and hooking penalty, and that goes back to 80s and 90s hockey, right? It was drag him down.
And so we get to see the finish flash. Teemu Selanne, what a welcome he got, and now he'll get a penalty shot. Teemu arrived here in 1992, took this city by storm, took the league by storm with 76 rookie season goals. Great shooter, but a deep for old time's sake.
I think we've seen that one a few times, right? Fake forehand, go to the backhand, and loft it into the upper parts of the net. Glenn Anderson here and Craig Simpson watching the monitor right beside us.
And Craig standing right beside us now. How's it feeling so far?
Oh, it's not bad. One shift under the belt. We were laughing. It's a little much to expect us to do an actual warm-up, then go away and come back and play. I think we'd rather just get out there and play.
You're way overworked. Yeah. It must be great. One of the scenes that was so neat here, Craig, was before the game to see both of the teams in the same dressing room. Time has changed a lot of things. There's a lot of respect.
It's a real respect level. I thought it was a wonderful touch. We're very fortunate to get to spend time with our teammates, but there's so many guys that have crossed over. Dale Howardchuk was my roommate in Buffalo. Eddie Olchuk, as you know, we know so well. So good for everybody to get together. Nobody's going to be giving the stink eye to anyone on that side.
All right, get back at it. A 1-0 lead for the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, it is kind of neat, Kelly, how instead of, because it's a football stadium, they have these big dressing rooms, and they didn't have a separate dressing room for either team, so they're all in one, commingling, having a great time, and it just shows what a few years could do to heal some wounds and to smooth over some battles that were pretty intense in the 80s.
Well, we experienced that last night at the Gala, right? They're just so complimentary about each other and sharing some wonderful stories. And I had a smile on my face the entire 3 hours last night just listening to these guys talk about the respect they have for each other.
You could never, ever get a group together like that for another event. The Hall of Famers, including Gretcki and Messier, were in the room. See, the Oilers have Craig McTavish on the ice, and the other number 14 is B.J. McDonald. The young people might not recognize B.J. He came into the WHA, then was in with the Oilers in their first season in the NHL and played with Gretcki on the GMC line and Brett Callaghan.
Remember,
an excellent line.
I grew up in Edmonton, so he was one of my first idols, and it was a real treat to watch him play.
Went on to play with a couple of other teams and then had a great career as a scout with Central Scouting.
Wow, what a save by Bill.
Still got it.
This little play by Jimmy Kite, who didn't usually see Kite in the high slot.
There's a few things that you don't normally see when you watch these games. Gretz is on the ice again. Wayne Gretzky's out with Jari Kurri. I don't see much back pressure from this line.
I like Bill Ranford to save too. The skate save, kick save, and a beauty.
Steve Staios, he's a coach now, and he looks like he's in pretty good shape to play. There's Jari Kurri. Wonder how many of his goals were one-timers set up by 99. That was a wonderful thing to watch.
And I'm glad you didn't ask the other obvious question, how many of those did I let in?
No, I'm not going there today. There's Laurie Boschman with the centering pass to Brian Mullen. Mullen played a lot of years with Dale Howardchuk, and Paul McLean, who's still coaching, so he couldn't be here today to play with that line.
Jari Kurri had his first good scoring chance and very familiar. You talked about his one-timer, but he had an opportunity just now in Bob Vicenza and the exact same shot. He liked high short side, fake that he was going far side and try and slip it by the goaltender's glove side.
If he had the puck, and then if he didn't, he'd be set up over on the left side, and Gretcki would send him a perfect one-timer.
And I didn't know this until I played with Jari in Los Angeles. I knew about the Selke trophies and so on, but I didn't recognize until I really played with him for a while how truly great he was on the defensive side of the puck.
We've got another penalty call here. This time it'll be against the Jets, so we'll see an Oiler penalty shot to try and tie this up.
I love how the officials have their names on their jerseys as well.
Penalty shot awarded.
That's Mick Magoo.
Yep.
Andy Van Helleman's working with him. Andy Krstanovich and Wayne Forsey are the linesmen for this game today.
That's another hooking call, and I expect because of the age of some of these guys, we might see a number of those.
Just tagging along.
Yes.
Craig Simpson has deferred to Mark Messi on this one for the breakaway penalty shot. Has he got it or not? Nope.
No. Interesting how some of these guys, we saw it with Slane and now Mark, they go back to their go-to move when they were stars in this league. Messi loved that. Sneak it through the 5-hole.
There again, that fabulous goaltending style that's just gone out of style. We don't see it much anymore. You're watching the Alumni Classic at the Tim Hortons Heritage Classic from Winnipeg.
The 80s were built around Dale Howardchuk and Wayne Gretzky, and Howardchuk explained at last night's gala dinner how the Jets would go to great lengths in practice to try to figure out how to stop the great one.
We're going to do a drill behind the net because Wayne was so good behind the net. So we had Ronnie Wilson dressed up because he wore the Jofa helmet like Wayne, and he says, "You're going to be Wayne behind the net." And we put 99 on Ronnie Wilson. Ronnie's here, and I love Ronnie. Ronnie was the glue of our team, but I can tell you one thing. We stopped Ronnie all morning, but we couldn't stop Wayne that night.
Well, there's a bit of a difference between Ron Wilson and Wayne Grettzky, and Ron Wilson would be the first to admit it. But Huey and Kelly, the great one, prospered against the Jets.
Did he ever? Well, a lot of these Edmonton Oilers did. Maybe that's why they were all so quick to accept the invitation. But I think that was Tom Watt that strategized that. He came up with that idea, and I'm sure that they tried other things too to stop the Oilers. They played 6 playoff series through the 80s, and the Oilers won every one of them. In fact, the Jets only won 4 games, and they had teams that were excellent. Their 85 team had 6 30-goal scorers on them. And still, they beat Calgary in the first round, but couldn't get by Edmonton in the second round. 90, they just about got them. A 7-game series. Hey, that's Simmer dangling in there. Whose stick did he borrow? His hands.
Hey, I loved watching Wayne's reaction last night when Howard Chuck was telling that story, right? He kind of buried his head in his hands and embarrassed.
The vice president, Chris King.
I like it.
Now works for the National Hockey League. He spent a few years here. He was the captain. He and Ty Domi came over from the New York Rangers, and Eddie Olczyk went the other way, and King was here right till the end in '96 when the Jets left for the desert.
Almost a little unfair, right? When you look at Chris, he's still ripped. He's not like some of us other guys that let ourselves go. He's still fit.
And that's why he gets to play on this line with Howard Chuck and Solani.
Of which doesn't make Ed Olczyk very happy.
And in the early 80s with Dale at center, that would have been McLean and Brian Mullen most likely on the wings. Willie Lindstrom on the ice is the elder statesman in this game. He's out with Ryan Smith and Kenny Linsman. Kenny won 1 Stanley Cup with the Oilers. Glenn Sather always had this knack, Kelly, from keeping hungry players in the lineup. He'd make some minor adjustments in the bottom half of his lineup, and of course he had such a wonderful core group of players that he'd always bring in somebody who was hungry for a Stanley Cup.
And you know exactly what kind of player Ken Linsman was. When you have a nickname like the Rat, you know what you're going to get.
Mike Krushelnyski's playing defense here with Craig Muni. They had to recruit a couple of guys to skate backwards today because they had lots of forwards and very few defensemen.
I mean, that's still beautiful to watch, right? Solani in that skating stride.
And a Solani to Howard Chuck goal.
Short side on Bill Ranford. Howard Chuck always known for that incredible wrist shot, snapshot, and spotted just a little opening right there. Buries it, but I mean, Tama, watching him come up the ice, that's always been a treat, and it hasn't changed, even though he hasn't played for a little bit.
Scott with the goal scorer.
Yes, with Chris King, 2-0 goal for the Jets. Chris, let me ask you this. If you were in the war room reviewing that, would you take it back?
I thought the guy held his foot on the line. I'm not sure it was in the air or not, but I'm pretty sure I would have called it onside.
I just want to say that Eddie Olczyk was chirping you before the game. He said you'd be a liability in that line, and you haven't been at all.
I think I've been the power behind the success so far. We got 3. I got 2.5. I changed a little quick, but I got back out there for the number.
Yeah, you're sniping today. I recall when you were playing with the Leafs, you scored in back-to-back games, and I said, they're going to have to put a man on you. And you said, that's been the problem my whole career. They've had a man on me.
Well, I don't think they have anybody here that they can put on me today. They're still probably going to have to figure that out in the first intermission. I'm just dying right now. Thanks, so Scott. Thanks for the rest.
I think you could put Esa Tикканен on him. There's Esa. If Kenny Linsman was the Rat, Esa wasn't far from it.
Yeah, you're right.
And chirping all the while in a language that nobody seemed to understand. Tikkanese, they called it in the 80s.
I just ran into Esa in Toronto, downtown Toronto, World Cup of hockey. He came in from Finland to watch his country play, and in fact I walked over from the hotel over to the arena with him, and most of the time, Jim, I have to admit I still didn't understand what he was saying.
How proud were those guys in this town the last few days, all the Finns talking about Patrick Laine and the young Finns who have come over to the National Hockey League. It's a new generation. They had a few real good ones in this battle between Edmonton and Winnipeg in the 80s, including Esa Tикканен and Jari Kurri. Well, great defenseman Teppo Numminen is on the ice right now, number 27 for the Jets.
Well, there's a familiar sight. Wayne at the far blue line, waiting for the puck.
Feed me, I'm hot.
Okay, that was ridiculous. What a beautiful pass by Wayne again.
Wayne has been such an ambassador for the game the last few days with his book tour going on and the things that he's doing for this Heritage Classic and for the National Hockey League that he's lost his voice. And Kurri take a shift with Dave Semmenko, who was the initial sheriff.
Wow, Mark Messie back checking. Oh, and getting booed because of it.
Or is that Moose?
Oh, it might be Moose. I think they're booing him. And Messie right there taking down Eddie Olczyk and hustling back into the play, getting the puck in the high slot. And I know, Eddie, right?
Look at his eyes light up. And Glenn Anderson, Craig Simpson on this line, just like old times.
Nice. Stick ready, old school. Give him a target.
Well, there was no question that that one got by goalie Bob. And the Oilers on the board, trailing 3-1, and a lot of smiles on both benches at the Alumni game. Tim Hortons Heritage Classic from Winnipeg.
Well, the level of interest in Winnipeg in this game was evident yesterday when the teams held practices at MTS Center. And as Jim said earlier, over 6,000 fans showed up to watch their heroes of yesteryear. The Jets practice was run by the team's managing partner, Mark Chipman, who was convinced by Ab McDonald to go out to his car and get his skate, sticks, and glove. And it was the thrill of a lifetime for Chipman. And then the Oilers ran a more structured practice, creating the suspicion that this would be a repeat of history. But so far, it has not been, Jim.
Unless you think that's odd that the managing general partner would have stick and gloves and skates in his car, I think that's mandatory for anybody in Winnipeg, isn't it?
And he plays twice a week, correct, Scott?
Awesome. Winnipeg is the one city that you fly over when you look down, instead of seeing swimming pools everywhere, you see hockey rinks. You see the boards all summer long. You see the grass outline of rinks. There are at least 67 community rinks in Winnipeg, run by the city and different community centers.
I like how some of our cities are getting back to that, putting up more outdoor rinks for the kids to enjoy, both boys and girls. Love it.
There's Morris Lukowicz. One of the other things to love about what the Jets did for this Heritage Classic is to make sure that there were 3 eras of Jets that would be represented. The Avco Cup winners in the 70s and the WHA. The 80s, before the Jets went to Phoenix, and then the current Jets will be honored tomorrow when they play against the Edmonton Oilers in the Jets 2.0 version.
It was interesting just a second ago when Paul Coffey had the puck and started heading up ice from his own zone. You could hear the fans. Whoa. Yes, they wanted to see that familiar rush up the ice. And Paul was too nice and too gracious or too old, and he just dished it off.
Go, go, go!
That's a tip by Kelly Bookberger from Ryan Smith, the one at the top of the net. Craig McTavish on the ice. He and Bookberger and Peter Klima played together a lot. Late 80s, 1990. Mike Ford is number 3. He represents the WHA. He played in the mid-70s for the Winnipeg Jets, who went to the Avco Cup Championship 5 times, won it 3 times, including the last year of the WHA and a win over the Edmonton Oilers. Grettzky played in that series. Thomas Steen, what a great Jet he was for his career, and he lived in Winnipeg as a player, still lives here now. Tикканен to McTavish against Merwa. Andrew McBain, who was a great high draft pick of the Winnipeg Jets, and his career didn't really take off till he started to play with Dale Howardchuk. That happened to a lot of guys. Surprise.
And Rory Boschman out there, you go back. As soon as I saw his name involved, I couldn't help but think back to the Western Hockey League in his days with the Brandon Wheat Kings and Ray Allison and Brian Propp, one of the, not the best line ever to play in that league.
They could have made up a scamp Saving, right? Scorekeeper for writing everything out every night. It was every goal. It was Boschman from Prop and Allison from Prop and Boschman. Scott?
Sorry, Morris Lukovic was just trying to figure out if he had to go out next, but you got a few seconds here, and it's a delight to talk to you. Just tell me what it means to you to be here representing the WH era, as well as the better part of 5 years you played in the NHL with Jets 1.0.
Well, one, the WHA was such an amazing piece. I want to say thank you to Bobby Hull for having come and formed the WHA. Gave so many of us an opportunity to play pro hockey and then eventually to be in the NHL. And to get to play with Gordie Howe and Bobby Hull and then come back against Gretcki, Messier. Oh, my gosh. I'm a blessed guy. And I'd like to say hi to my daughter Zoe out there. Hey, sweetheart.
Perfect. I know she's 12 and she's gorgeous. Let me ask you, you're taking this seriously.
We're having fun. But I like a good workout.
Perfect. Good to talk to Morris.
Thanks, Scott.
Dewey.
So, Scott, I don't know, you've interviewed Morris many times in your life and about hockey today, but did you know he's one of the most accomplished squash players in our country, especially in the city of Calgary?
That's the kind of research that if you had passed it on to me, I would have asked him.
Okay, but I wanted to save that tidbit for myself. Dave Semmenko taking the game very seriously. Just after the anthems, he came over and said to us, what? I'm available at any point if you want to interview me.
Well, I'm sure we'll get to him at some point.
Yes. What a great sense of humor, Dave Semmenko. If you don't know him, if you only knew of his hockey career, the style he'd play, you would not know that he's one of the funniest guys, real dry sense of humor.
So you'd be terrified of him otherwise if you didn't know.
Right.
Mike Eagles, where's number 36 for the Jets? Ronnie Wilson's out there too. Ronnie he was always a great skater. Played for a long time as one of the best skaters in the league. Lukovic and Eagles together, and there's a snipe from Mike Eagles.
What a feed from Morris. So I had to tell Mike Eagles in warm-up a story. I had to share and remind him a story when he, of course, was with the Jets and I was playing with LA. We had a game at home, and there's quite a rivalry we had as well with Winnipeg, and quite a bit of hatred. Mike didn't like the way I'd slash sometimes in my crease, so there's a whistle, and my legs were apart just a little bit, and he pitchforked me in a very sensitive area, the worst I've ever been in my life. I had to ask him if he remembered it, and of course he didn't, and had a nice little smile. I don't know why.
Billy Ranford's been busy here. And the first period of this Alumni game comes to an end with the home side up 4-1. But if memory serves me correct, it was never a big deal with the Oilers.
You're right.
To be down by 3 after 1 or after 2, wherever they went in the 80s.
How cool is that? Howard Chuck's over talking to the boys on the Oilers now, having a good laugh. Looks like Wayne's sure having a good time.
No, why wouldn't you? You think about the times that these players had together, especially through the 80s when the Oilers won 5 Stanley Cups, one after Wayne went to Los Angeles. And Scott's trying to make his way through here at the bench to Dale.
Yeah, a bit crowded here, but I'm with the Jets captain, Dale Hawerchuk. Your take on the first 20 minutes of that fast-paced game?
Well, it's a lot of fun, I'll tell you that. You know, we played these guys many times, and it's been a long time, but I think everybody's having fun doing it again.
It was really interesting yesterday when you were talking to Jim and I about your favorite line mates, and Paul McLean was one for a long time for you in Winnipeg, and you said that Paul McLean used to say, because he was so slow, got his skate sharpened, twice a year, he said, I'll get the puck, I'll give it to you, then I'll go wait in front of the other net. And so he texted me this morning and he said, well, at least Dale could follow orders, and it shows that he listened to someone. What do you say in response to that?
I'm not sure what he's talking about there. Yeah, we had a chemistry, and of course Brian Mullen, he had a knack for getting on pucks and turning pucks over, and Paul had a great knack for getting open in front of the net, and very strong. And back in that time, boy, you could cross-check guys in front of the net, and Paul, he could take a beating and still put pucks in the net.
3-time 40-goal scorer, thanks in large part to you. Thanks, Dale.
Thanks, guys.
Jim.
What an afternoon. It's a celebration of hockey in Winnipeg. There's Tom Cochran. He's coming up in our first intermission, and later on, Paul Maurice will join Ron and company on the panel.
1,000 kilometers north of Winnipeg, Tom Cochran.
the pride of Lynn Lake, Manitoba. Let's give a big Winnipeg welcome to Tom Cochrane.
Travel on when there's one day here, the next day gone. Sometimes you bend, sometimes you stand, sometimes you turn your back to the wind. It's a world outside every darkened door. The blues won't haunt you anymore. With a brave eye free and love is sore, come ride with me to the distant shore. He won't hesitate, break down the garden gate. There's not much time left today. Up in the highway, you now, look at love you there. This is the road and these are the hints. Mozambique to Memphis now. Chicago past to Winnipeg slides. Knock me down and back up again. You're in my blood, I'm not a lonely man. There's no road I can't hold, a road so rough, this I know. I'll be there when the light comes in. Just tell them we're survivors. Life is a highway, I wanna ride it all night long. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're going my way. I wanna drive it all night long. Give me cover. Life is a highway. I wanna ride it all night long. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're going my way. I wanna drive it all night long. There was a distance between you and I, a misunderstanding once, but now we look it in the eye. Let me play the harp for you. There ain't no road that I can
Always a great friend of the NHL, Tom Cochran, Lynn Lake, Manitoba. Long road from Lynn Lake to all the...
You could tell this was special. To your players, to your organization, as we approach their game tomorrow, which I'm sure you'll be leading 4-1 after the first period too. What's it mean to everybody?
It's hard to explain, Elliot, and I've had this sense from the time I got here. Things are different here. The love affair with this team, going back to the first time round and then losing the team, and when it comes back, it is so special to the people that have them here. And you can see it. You can see it in the building. You could feel it from the time it was announced that this was going to happen. This is such a huge, important weekend for the city of Winnipeg and for the players coming back. Had a chance to talk to alumni on both sides. They loved it. They just love that sense of a community that loves the game just as much as they do.
Hey, Paul, outside of the focus of getting 2 points, because really we do know how much that means to clubs when they play in these outdoor games, what do you want your players in particular to take out of this, besides absorbing it all in, specifically when I speak of the alumni that we're watching on the ice?
So last night, Ron, fantastic job. When you guys were up on the stage, at each corner the alumni would gather, and they were having fun and telling jokes off camera, and that's what I want. I want all these young players to understand that that's available. That friendship that goes not just to junior hockey years like I had when you used to beat up on me, but these guys are 30, 40-year friendship, a bond that's created by a hockey team. We got a young team here. We got a great city to play in. They can have that too. That's maybe the most special thing of this weekend.
Paul, you're pretty connected to a number of the men out there, so tell us about some of that.
Well, we have both Shannon brothers from the Winnipeg Jets alum, and Daryl was my roommate. Darren and I played together with Adam Graves and some pretty good junior hockey players. Both Wayne Grettzky and Paul Coffey played in my hometown, Sault Ste. Marie. As a matter of fact, Wayne Grettzky used to play ball hockey at the tennis courts across the street from our house, and we get the binoculars out and watch them. So all your heroes at some point passed through Sault Ste. Marie and now Winnipeg.
Hey, we got to ask you about Patrick Laine. Everybody talks about the shooter. I'm watching him today in your practice, and I'm sitting there going, he's a pretty good passer as well.
Well, so we're all like cats, right? The shiny object is his shot. But his passing skills are incredible, and almost every Finnish-born player that I've ever had, very good defensively. His stick goes to the right spots. Now, he's got a little creativity in him. He likes to find an arc to think about offense when he touches the puck. But his all-around game at 18 is very solid.
You know, Paul, one of the things I've learned, I heard you talk about it this morning, the toughest thing on coaches is deciding your lineup.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing about an outdoor game.
It's such a special event here, and players, especially if they've been here. I've got some veteran guys that have been out of my lineup. Haven't made that decision yet. We're going to agonize it overnight because I would so much like everybody truly to be involved. It's the best team building exercise the NHL runs. Wish I could get everybody in, but I know I can't.
Well, not to put you on the spot, but so is Mark Stewart the guy you're agonizing over? Because like I know Pat Burns, Game 7, Anaheim, New Jersey for the Stanley Cup. He put Ken Danico in. That's a little different. That was the lift they needed, right, to ensure a victory.
I have 2 veteran men that aren't in our lineup last game, Chris Thorburn and Mark Stewart. So there's more than just a hockey player here. It's what they've meant to our organization. Mark's an alternate captain, a big part of the Rick Rippon program. He's in part of this community, and I want them to be a part of it. I'm going to make a hockey decision sometime between now and 11:30 tomorrow, but I am going to entertain the teamness of our approach.
Well, I remember that hug that Mitch had with Don Cherry, and honestly, Paul, it's hard to believe you're moving into your 3rd decade coaching in the National Hockey League. You're part of now alumni history, and these are the men you looked up to. It's great to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Paul Maurice, Mark Chipman, the owner of the Jets, in our 2nd intermission, and it's a real deal, Jim and Kelly, for Mark Chipman and David Thompson and a guy like Craig Heisinger. You know, Craig, amazing day.
Yeah, they all have permagrin on today. It's just working out wonderfully, and this is the first of, well, it's been all week that it's been going here, but these are the first of 2 days out on the ice here, and the alumni game continues. And there's Daniel Berthiaume, who's in goal now for the Winnipeg Jets. In today's game, people would ask, where's the other half of your goaltender? remember Pokey and the Bandit?
Oh, absolutely. That was a penalty, so Tикканен gets a chance here. Howard Chuck, of course, with the penalty.
Well, welcome to the game, Daniel.
You know, I played with Dan in Los Angeles for about 1.5 years.
Two cracks at it. I don't think they're going to let that second one count.
And he was one of my favorite partners. And I had a lot of really good ones, starting, of course, with Billy Smith. But Dan was a really good goaltender. In fact, one year with us, I think he had 22 wins. That tells you how strong a season he had. As you said, he and Pokey and the Bandit.
Pokey Reddick.
Yeah. I was talking to Dan in warm-up, and he's been training for about 2 months. He's been playing goal for 2 months trying to get ready for this game. Bob Senza, of course, a veteran, played the first and said, okay, kid, in relative terms, I guess.
Yes. They may end up flipping a coin to see who plays the third. There's only 2 goaltenders on this Winnipeg Alumni team. There's Chris King with a shot, and that's welcome to the game to Dwayne Rollison, who's the second of the 3 goaltenders who will play for the Edmonton Oilers today. I'm not sure how comfortable he really was in that picture.
Love it, eh?
That's that is classic.
Right? I even love the equipment. You know, it was more form-fitting back then, and I understand the game changes, but that was cool stuff to throw on back in those days. They even have a different smell, which most people
all season long
used to.
Never dried out, did it?
No, it didn't.
Funny you mentioned the equipment in the dressing room of these 2 alumni teams today. Nobody wanted to put on new equipment, and a lot of them have to because they don't have any equipment. But Dave Lumley, for example, took the caps off of 2 old shoulder pads and tied them together with a shoelace, a skate lace, so he could wear them today to play defense.
The question I have to ask is why is he wearing shoulder pads?
Well, that was my question exactly, because he wants to look a little bigger to play defense.
Okay.
A lot of guys love their old equipment, and there's some ancient stuff that showed up in the dressing room today.
Well, it was interesting. Again, I played with Coffee in L.A. also, and much to my surprise, you know, one of the greatest skaters to ever play. I didn't recognize it because I never really paid attention. He never wore the top line skates. He just wore the ones that felt most comfortable to him. So, you know, there are other skates models that were superior, supposedly. And no, I like these. These are good enough for me. And I always used to think of that, you know, people buying skates and they're spending hundreds of dollars back then, not thousands now. And I'm thinking, if Paul Coffey can wear this kind of skate,
sorry, Dave Babbage here.
Well, let me know. That's an important television.
This is a professional broadcasting company here. Over to you, Scott.
Thank you, Jim. Dave, 19 goals, 81-82. Great memories back then. You brought the Jets credibility when John Ferguson drafted you. What's it mean to you to be here today?
Oh, it means a lot. Look at this place. This is unbelievable. Well, you know what? For it to be sold out for a bunch of old slugs like us, terrific. But and you know what? Playing against these guys, it's quite an honor. I mean, all these Hall of Famers, and you know, this just bring back so many memories that we haven't had for 25, 30 years. So it's terrific.
All right,
I gotta go.
Well, man's got to play a game.
I was just going to ask him about the mountain rescue.
I know.
Never had a chance, but he picked a girl up and carried her a kilometer off a mountain in BC to save her life.
2 young hikers, they were lost on the mountain.
We'll get back to that.
You know, Scott, feel free to go onto the ice and after him if you'd like. That's the kind of game it is today.
One more thing.
Yes.
I'm hearing rumors of a big trade in the works that will occur at the end of the second period.
Nice.
I think it's a player going from the Oilers to the Jets. I can't give you any more details, but I'm working diligently on the story, boys.
Well, that's a first.
Let's call Elliot and see if he can clear this up. I wonder if it would have anything to do with, well, there's a few guys that played on both of these teams, including Willie Lindstrom.
Yes.
Oh, off the post.
Lukwich with the breakaway and then a shot off the post.
Semenko and Mantha, there's a battle. Charlie Huddy, one of the coaches of the Winnipeg Jets, he'll be working for 2 points here tomorrow with Paul Maurice. Original line mates, Wayne Grettzki, B.J. McDonald. Wayne's first game in Winnipeg was as a member of the Indianapolis Racers. He played here as a racer, he played here as an Oiler in the WHA and the NHL. He played here as a Los Angeles King. And his last game here was in February of 1996, a 4-3 Winnipeg win over the LA Kings. And the next day, he was traded to St. Louis.
I remember it well. I was a part of that squad, and that was a very sad day.
And he and Dale Hawerchuk actually became teammates for half a dozen games in St. Louis, and then with Wayne there, Dale got traded to Philadelphia. Teemu went on to superstardom in Anaheim, and it feels like today when you watch him, they never left here.
I mean, they all lost some skill, but you can't ever take away from their hockey sense, right? You look at some of these guys, how they position themselves. Just Yari and Wayne there together just remind me how often they did that 5 feet apart, and just wonderful little passes. Cool to watch.
Thomas Steen with a little dangling, and Smale comes off the bench to join him with Andrew McBain. Little thievery, Messьer from Miroir. There's Messьer, Anderson, and Simpson again.
that's what Simmer did a lot of that. Another penalty. Look at Dan Berthume going after Simmer. Berthume, by the way, is a fishing captain now. It's called Captain Bert's.
He just got knocked into the drink by Craig Simpson. His job was to go to the net. He had to retire at a very early age because of a bad back for the beating that he took in front of the net.
Tragic, right? I mean, he was one of the best scorers in the game at the time, and I felt for him.
Career came to an end at 28.
Wow. Ed Olczyk.
Yeah, do you want to call this?
Yeah.
London Diamond Junior B.
Oh!
And he scores. Beautiful goal by Craig Simpson. I don't know about the speed factor, but a very effective move.
I like it.
Go to the net, stick on the ice. Still the same today,
I didn't
isn't
agree
it?
with the call by Andy Van Holman, by the way.
I didn't think you would. Wow, still great hands, right? I mean, he had some of the best hands in the National Hockey League at the time.
56 goal scorer in the mid-'80s, and he won 2 Stanley Cups with the Oilers.
But you're right, when you talk about the beating he took in front, most people don't think of Craig Simpson as one of those really tough guys to play against, but he was a warrior out there.
But you could do so much as a defenseman.
Yeah.
In those days, you know, you'd have to hit the guy 5 or 6 times before the referee would call a penalty.
You mean you could do so much that it was illegal?
Well, yeah. And the first 2 or 3 cross checks were just for freebies. Good. And the referee, like Andy, would say, "You do that one more time, and I'm going to give you a penalty."
Oh,
and that line strikes again.
And that same sort of wrist shot from Mark. And now he's scored a couple that way. I think what we're going to see here sometime in this afternoon's game, he's going to have to go on the off wing.
Oh, yeah, off
yes.
Off balance.
Absolutely. That was his patented one, and we all knew it was coming, and somehow it still sneak in 5-hole or far post, depending on what we showed him.
Always had that little kick. Yep. So here we go again, another Oiler comeback. Game's at 4-3 now. Of course, the greatest comeback of them all against Winnipeg was 1990 when the Oilers won the Stanley Cup, and the Jets thought they finally had him. Finally had him. They got up 3-1 in the series when Dave Ellis scored a double overtime goal, and they got up 3-1 in game number 5, only to have the Oilers come back and win 4-3. And then the Jets were pretty much spent by game 7, it seemed. And the Oilers went on to win the 5th of their Stanley Cups without Wayne.
That's right. They beat us in the second round, and they swept us, in fact, 4-0.
Once they got by the Jets, they rolled pretty good.
Yeah, they had the kid line. Joe Murphy,
Adam Graves,
Marty Jelena. I'm getting more body checks here than in my entire career standing right by the Jets defenseman going off, or on and off the ice, I guess.
Behind, hard.
Max, he wants a penalty. He's not going to get one. don't want to fall down in games like this. It just takes a long time to get back up.
And they grimace a little bit more than they used to.
It's back on. Two forwards back on this Solani break. It's an all-finished threesome.
And do you think it matters?
No, it's a forwards back up. I'm not sure if we ever saw that in the 80s. Tикканен and Kurri defending Solani. Well, we didn't see it in the 80s because Solani wasn't around, but there's three great Finns in that play.
Wayne's looking pretty good. He told me in the intermission he hasn't skated in a year.
You know what? He says that this might be it.
I heard that.
This is probably going to be it, although you never know with Wayne. He can be convinced when it's time to get back with the guys to do it again. But we really might be seeing this great group of players on both sides playing an alumni game for the last time. And last time we'll see him on skates.
Right. That's right. That's an important thing because it doesn't mean he won't show up. Because he loves being around the guys. I mean, that was evident last night at the gala. And I mean, that's one of the best parts of being older and playing. You get to hang out with your friends that you haven't seen in a number of years.
And they all seem to pick up where they left off. Same stories.
Yeah.
Same laughter.
Some of them good.
Same teasing.
Randy Gillen, one of my teammates in Los Angeles, another former Jet. We were sharing a story last night, and I'll tell it after.
Okay, we'll share that when we come back. Mark Messier and the Edmonton Oilers are within a goal of the Jets. If that really matters to you, everybody's having a blast at the Tim Hortons Heritage Classic Alumni Afternoon. It's a busy day after our alumni game. It'll be the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Chicago Blackhawks on Hockey Night tonight. And the Vancouver Canucks at 4-0 head out to Los Angeles and Anaheim over the next 2 days, and we'll show you their game against the Kings tonight on Hockey Night in Canada. Scott Oak.
All right, Jim. Mark Messier was pointing out his connection to Winnipeg that precedes the Smythe Division battles. When he was 17, he signed with the Indianapolis Racers. They folded after 5 games. He went home and then signed up with the Cincinnati Stingers. But Messier's first game as a pro was here in Winnipeg with Indianapolis. Said he had a breakaway. He didn't score and managed 1 goal the rest of the season with both Indianapolis and Cincinnati. It was not a sign of things to come against the Jets, whom he heard on an annual basis, or in the NHL, where he finished with 694 goals. And if I'm counting correctly, he's got a couple today.
You know,
Yes, I believe he does.
He was a phenom in around the Edmonton area when I was growing up, and I first heard about Mark when he was about, well, he was the same age, so it was about 13 or 14. And then when he was 15, he made the Spruce Grove Mets in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. I went and watched him playing at Jasper Place Arena, and I was blown away by this kid. And you could tell he was destined for stardom. There is no question. He was, like I said, we're the same age, and he was miles ahead of any of us.
Isn't that interesting how their stories for Wayne and Mark both go through Winnipeg so much? I think Wayne's 4th professional game was here, something like that. And he signed up with the same team, the Indianapolis Racers, on a personal services contract, and that's why he was allowed to stay in Edmonton when the Oilers left the WHA and were one of the 4 teams to come into the NHL. Because at that time, the NHL had a reclamation draft, and they really made the WHA pay for their indiscretion of forming another league. Yes. The Jets, when they came into the WHA, lost 3 of their top 6 scorers, or came into the NHL.
And their first real star is playing here today, Morris Lukowicz, NHL.
And they drafted Dave Babich, and they drafted Dale Howard-Chuck.
Once again, old habits die hard. That was classic Craig McTavish. Get the puck in his own zone and not head up ice, but circle back and regroup and figure out what's going to happen.
And for young people who are watching today and wondering why he's not wearing a helmet, well, he never did.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. He was the last National Hockey League player who played without a helmet on. They grandfathered in the rule that you had to wear helmets, and when he finally retired,
And
he was the last.
It's not like he didn't sacrifice himself either. He was one of the most fearless shot blockers the game has ever known.
There's a big rush from Mike Eagles. Gretcki back on with a early 80s line with Semenko, Jay McDonald. Haven't seen one of those end-to-end coffee rushes yet. Maybe now.
I asked him, remember we were talking about that in the first period, and I asked him, did you hear the crowd roar? And he said no, and he goes, I'm too tired and I can't get my legs yet.
Blind backhand pass from King to Hawerchuk. That was nifty.
How about the hand-eye coordination still by Solani in front?
Oops. There's a nice save by Wayne Rollison.
Yes.
On Thomas Steen, fortunate enough to play his entire career with one team here in Winnipeg.
Man, he was a good hockey player.
Pretty underrated player, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
That's often the way the Swedes are. And his son is a very good player, Alex Steen of St. Louis Blues.
Well, in my hockey career, I've never met a bad Swede. They're all amazing people.
I always thought that they made wonderful defensemen too, because they have no panic in their game.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they get excited about their paychecks.
Well, let's not get crazy here.
Starting to look like this is a long game for some guys.
And a couple of broadcasters too.
Mac T. Vintage.
Love it.
At the Heritage Classic from Winnipeg. In Game 6 tonight at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on Sportsnet and Sportsnet Now. Back at the Alumni game, here's Scott.
Jim, thank you. The greatest goal in the history of Jets 1.0 scored by Dave Ellett, April of 1990, double OT to put the Jets up 3-1 in their series against the Oilers, and unfortunately they won the next three to win the series. But Dave, remains an outstanding goal. How many times have you been asked about it this weekend?
That's actually the first time I've seen it, watching it there this weekend, but yeah, it's obviously been a big part of Manitoba hockey history. I run into people all over the world that have come up to me and said they were actually at that hockey game. So it's, you know, it's sad.
Only 18,000, but at least 50 claim to have been there.
Yeah, I didn't realize the old rink had 30,000 seats.
And then to the Toronto Maple Leafs, where you say Kelly Rudy owes you for the damage he did in that 1993 semifinal.
He's going to take it. You know, we lost to LA in 7. Obviously, Wayne turned the series around there the last 3 hockey games, but Kelly was outstanding the whole series.
But Kelly, Dave made you nervous.
He sure did, because he scored on me with less than a minute to go to make it. We had a 5-3 lead. You ripped one over my glove to make it 5-4, and then I was afraid that Doug Gilmour is going to do the same thing that he did against St. Louis, because as you'll remember, he positioned himself behind the net, and I thought, oh my, we're in trouble.
I think he had a chance of that too, because the puck was down low.
That's right.
If I recall, with about 10-15 seconds left. So that was a great series.
It was.
Really good hockey.
Absolutely.
And so was the one in 1990. All right, Dave, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Hey, this is great. Having a great time.
Perfect.
Thanks, Dave.
Isn't it wonderful you can have a hot stove going in the middle of a hockey game?
Can we just do this all night?
Oh, big save by Daniel Berthiaume. The bandit just robbed Ryan Smith. Coming up on the end of the second period, a couple of minutes to go in it. Accidental goal light on, but it was a premonition.
Mac T.
And the Oilers have tied this up.
Would this sneak through the 5-hole? going from Berthium's left to his right, and I think he tried to sneak it in the 5-hole. Might have banged in the rebound. I wasn't really paying attention, I have to admit.
What kind of color commentator are you?
Exactly. All right, it's... Or did Brian Smith knock in the rebound? Still give us a better view. No, that's all Mac T.
Mac T's goal.
Yeah. Coach's challenge?
I would challenge that for interference. But I'm not sure that the coaches are watching the game. There's autograph sessions. There's all sorts of people around. Yes, they are. They're having a blast. Glenn Saylor and John Muckler behind the bench.
Great point you bring up now. I'm looking at both benches, and all men are intently watching. It's cool.
During the 80s, when these teams played against each other, the Jets went through 10 coaches in a dozen years. The Oilers, through all that time, of course, they were winning Stanley Cups. They had 2 coaches. They didn't have a third one. Brian Watson was for a few games and took over, but it was Glenn Saylor and then John Muckler, and Glenn won the first 4 cups, and John in 1990 was the coach.
Not to mention they had some pretty good players.
There's Tommy McVie, who is the coach of the Jets when they came into the NHL. Ab McDonald, who won Stanley Cups. And Serge Savard, who's one of few, and he came in here as a favor to John Ferguson at one point, finished his career playing here.
John Muckler, Ron Lowe, Glenn Saylor on the Oilers bench.
Video coach Brian Ross is back today.
Yes.
It's great to see Roscoe.
Yes.
An offside. Offside. Wayne Forsey called that. I don't know why.
And it looks like this period's coming to an end. Clock continues to wind down, and I think sweet relief for the players to see that.
Another close game between the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers, and just like old times, the Oilers behind by 3, caught up here in the second period, but all is up for grabs in this Alumni Classic in the third period. I was going to send it down to Scott, but he's standing right beside me with Mark Messier.
Yeah, about 3 inches away, Jim. Thanks a lot, Mark. They had you 4-1. Thanks to a couple of IU, the complexion of this game has changed. Is this starting to feel like one of those Smythe Division comebacks that you had? Many of them against the Jets.
Should be a good third period. At least got it to a tie now and got it competitive again. So we got rolling a bit towards the end there, and here we are, 4-4.
Does it feel competitive to you?
No question about it. I don't know if it looks competitive, but I know everybody on this bench is giving it everything I have.
You know, you guys, the last time this collection of talent was together, the Hall of Famers and the Oilers in the Dynasty years was probably in 03 in the first Heritage Classic. Do you think we're seeing this group on skates together for the last time today?
Well, there's been talk about that. You know, we've been really fortunate the last couple of years with all the things going on in Edmonton, a new building, the last game at Northlands Coliseum. We've been able to get together. First time really since the first original Heritage Classic. There's been talk about this the last time. I don't know, we're all getting a little older, but I hate to use the word never because I like to keep the options open.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Jim.
Good, don't use that word, never. Mark Messier, the classic shot that made it 4-3. Coming up in the intermission, Jets Governor Mark Chipman will join Ron McLean in our panel from the Heritage Classic in Winnipeg.
Continues. Here's the arrival of Don Cherry just a moment ago. Grapes, of course, Winnipeg's the home of 17 Wing, which all roads, the Royal Canadian Air Force, lead to Winnipeg. They have squadrons, they have command posts. You're a pilot. If you're somebody who loads the aircraft, if you're somebody who repairs or prepares the aircraft, you learned how to do it right here in Winnipeg. Mark Chipman, the chairman of True North Sports and Entertainment and obviously governor of the Winnipeg Jets. Congratulations, Mark. You know, you and Patty, your brother Steve at Birchwood and his wife Ruth, you know every name of every employee. It's always the most amazing thing in the world to me. But one name, oh, wait a minute. That's Don Cherry talking about. You expect me to interview Mark Chipman while Don Cherry's talking to me?
He's one-upping you again.
What is happening here? What did he say? He's introducing a band from 17 Wing. So that's beautiful music for this question. Wayne Grettzky. As many people as you know, Mark, I'm sure it was bold when you picked up the phone and said, Wayne, here's what I'm thinking. Go ahead.
Yeah, Charlie Huddy gave me his cell phone number. It took me a while to sort of work up the courage to punch in the digits, and he picked up right away, and I introduced myself to him. We'd met before, but I don't think he would have really known who I was, so told him what we were thinking about doing and asked him if he'd participate. He was very, very, very gracious and accepting. Said he had to check with Messier and Coffee first, which he did. The very next day, got back to me, and from there, it really came together.
Mark, when you look at this weekend and you factor in the emotional aspect on it, considering the probability of a weekend like this happening, say, 10 years ago, does that make it extra special?
Oh, yeah, it really does, Nick. I mean, 10 years ago, we were playing in the American Hockey League, and we were trying to be an NHL team at that time, you know, in case the opportunity ever came along. But I never could have imagined this, you know, to be able to bring back the history of the Oilers and the Jets and have our city look so good. You know, I'm so proud of the way our city's has adopted this, and I don't even know how to describe it. It's just unbelievable.
There was a pretty big cheer this afternoon for Thomas Steen when he was introduced. It's a bit interesting going down to Arizona and seeing his name up there in that banner.
Yeah.
Will you guys do that at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tommy's number was in the rafters at the Winnipeg Arena. It'll be back up in at the MTS Center. We wanted to start it with the WHA and all Fanders and Bobby, and Bobby's number had been up in the past, so Tommy's number will be up again for sure.
It's one of the cool things. Howard Chuck in 81, before that Dave Babbage in 80, and they always snickered about Jimmy Mann, first pick in 79, but Thomas Steen was the 5th pick, and what a pick.
Yeah.
Thrills for you, Mark. I just love, whether it's Craig Heisinger or some of the names, some of the things you think about today and tomorrow for Winnipeg, because both that IHL threat of the Moose.
Yeah.
I thought Winnipeggers would quit on hockey. They would turn their back once the league turned its back on Winnipeg for economic reasons. Amazing how you kept that alive.
Yeah, we just feel fortunate. I don't know how to explain it beyond that. We kind of hung in and kept hockey going here, and the NHL I think saw what we were doing and trying to do, and they gave us a tap on the shoulder in 07. That's when we started talking, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
Peter Pocklington once went in the AFCO Cup final, 1979. It was Jets and Oilers, so that's part of why these two teams even exist, is that history. But Pocklington went into the Edmonton dressing room. He promised every guy a trip to anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And when they were down in the second period, he went back in the dressing room with a bathing suit and a bottle of sunscreen. And here you are on the ice with your team yesterday. I want to know, did you have something that you promised them? Was it money?
I went in yesterday morning to say hello to the guys, and I play with Mike Ford, and next thing I know it convinced me to come out on the ice. Thank God my skates were in the car, and that was a thrill of a lifetime. It was unbelievable.
It's not too late to go down there and throw some extra incentive. It's the third period here.
I had my thrill yesterday. That wasn't on my bucket list, but it sure could have been.
You're a football star. You went on a scholarship to North Dakota, Mark. True North, when it bellowed out here today, such a tribute to you. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Mark Chipman, governor of the Winnipeg Jets. Donald S. Cherry's coming up around the break. Wait till he hears I was talking over him earlier. And we'll tee up tonight on Hockey Night in Canada from Winnipeg. Next. So it just dawned on me, the first time we had a Heritage game was in Edmonton in 2003, and you came in with the black Stetson, and we weren't paying attention, and it happened again. I was yapping up here, and
of course I was. You guys are only on for 15 hours. I'm on for 1 minute, and you had to squeeze me in. Anyhow, I'm going to tell you how I predicted that they would get the franchise. You want to know?
Yes.
Gary Doer, the premier at the time, wrote a little note to me, David Thompson. And he said, I guarantee you, if he's been involved, David Thompson, you will get a franchise, and they did.
I should mention, David doesn't do the interviews. He's pretty low profile.
Saw him this morning, by the way.
You did?
Yeah.
And Mark doesn't really want to do the interviews, but they raised on last night alone $1.2 million for their youth foundation. It's incredible. It's always a favorite place to come.
Well, you were the MC. You carried the whole thing.
I was on again.
You told about Brodeur's story.
No, I can't. I would keep you abreast of that if I had time. Scott Oak, over to you.
All right, Ron. Yes, you were outstanding last night, by the way. Well, look, I referenced a brewing trade in the second period. I'm able to break the story now. This is actually the first story I've broken in about 20 years. But the Jets alumni has acquired Willie Lindstrom from Edmonton. So Lindstrom changes uniforms between periods, and they've acquired him. Well, Laurie Boschman to Winnipeg. This is back in time, of course, 1983. This was the trade that sent them either way. But Willie Lindstrom now wearing number 20 for the Winnipeg Jets.
Shocking, really. Wouldn't it be great in the National Hockey League if they did that and if you made a trade, you just switch teams in the middle of a game?
Well, much better now to do it this way than the way Ed Olczyk found out that he was getting traded from the Toronto Maple Leafs to the Winnipeg Jets. Wife was in labor.
And he was at the hospital and had to answer a call. No cell phones then. And was told that he'd been traded to the Winnipeg Jets. Hotly contested 4-4 tie. Yes, that was Gretz. Wayne Grettzky down and back up, but still with a smile on his face. That's a good thing.
Never in my life did I think I'd see that.
Tripped over the blue line?
Oh, the guys on the bench are having a good laugh, too.
With more on the trade, here's Scott Oak.
Huey, thanks very much. I have the principal in the trade with me, Willie Lidstrom. Willie, what was your reaction when you heard about the deal?
I got to get out and play.
You know, the key to this broadcast is timing, and so far today it's been sadly lacking. Huey.
There's a chance for Ed Olczyk, but he was stymied by Ryan Smith, who poked the puck away, and he couldn't get the breakaway. That's Cujo in goal now, by the way. Curtis Joseph is now taken over in goal for Edmonton. Daniel Berthiaume through the short straw and is still in goal for the Jets.
It's occurred to me watching this game, Ryan Smith is just trying too hard.
Somebody will have to talk to him about that.
What are the coaches doing?
There's Esa Tикканен. What a colorful character, what a great career he had. I remember one year when he was playing Kelly with the Vancouver Canucks, and it was the All-Star break, and you know that National Hockey League players aren't supposed to go skiing during the season. At the All-Star break, I was skiing in Whistler and coming down the mountain, and it was unmistakable that in a complete snowsuit and covered with a balaclava, coming up behind me and passing me was Esa Tикканен, and you know how I knew, because I could hear him. He was talking to his kids.
Oh, my.
And he'd had knee surgeries and you name it, but he was having a blast.
You weren't supposed to do that, ride motorcycles, other things, but if the team didn't know, you could do it.
You could do it. Another offside call was Eddie Olczyk caught inside the blue line. Mark Messьer and Wayne Grettzky beside each other on the bench in full uniform as it gets a little chillier, and you can see instead of the Jofa helmet, Gretz goes to the toque. "48 different Oilers won the 5 Stanley Cups. 7 of them won all 5. Kevin Lowe, Grant Fuhr, Ben Anderson, Mark Messьer, Charlie Huddy, Yari Curry, Randy Gregg. Doctor?
Only 10 years in the league, Randy Gregg. Retired to go back into medicine.
He was very different than most players. Came out of the University of Alberta. Played in the National Hockey League, played very well. And then retired to a practice as a doctor.
You know, Mark Messьer did the interview with Scott at the end of the second and talked about how it's getting very competitive now. And 5 minutes in the third, you can see it. It's noticeable on the ice. These guys still just can't help themselves.
There's that Messьer Anderson Simpson line out together again. One of their great seasons together. That line had 110 goals.
Big deal. I let in 78 of them. Do it good on a good goalie, then you'll get credit.
You know, it's not a stretch to suggest that the new look line that is the Oilers' exciting top line, Connor McDavid with Milan Lucic and Jordan Eberle, has some real similarities.
Absolutely. Good point.
Now, I'm not sure that in the role of Glenn Anderson, Jordan Eberle is going to go in and take Bob Essens or any goaltender out, but nobody does that anymore. The original coach of the Winnipeg Jets when they came out of the WHA into the NHL, colorful Tom McVie, and he's with Scott right now.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, what a distinguished coaching staff the Jets alumni have. There's Ab McDonald, 4-time Stanley Cup champion. He's a Winnipeg treasure. Serge Savard and Tom McVie. You and I both would like, well, I'd like you to say something about John Ferguson, the late John Ferguson, who hired you as coach of the Jets, and you came into the NHL with him.
I did, and you know, we won the last Avco Cup he brought me in, and everything went great, and we won the cup. And they took a lot of the players, or all the players, I guess. And anyway, Fergie and I, whoa, hold post. Fergie and I, we grew up together, and you know, he would get, a lot of times he'd come down my office, he'd be ranting and raving, he'd be upset. But I knew he wasn't going to punch me in the nose because he loved me. And besides, my nose is all broken up anyway.
Fergie was a wonderful man, and I'll say this about him. There was never a dull moment around the camp of the Jets when he was running it.
Well, I know you loved it when you were working around there. Come around every day and something good would happen, wouldn't it?
Several times he threatened to kill me, and he'd have been within his rights to do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
It was one of the great memories of anybody who ever worked in the Winnipeg Arena in our business, Kelly, is that if you were in the broadcast booth, you sat next to the general manager's booth. And if something went wrong for the Winnipeg Jets, you would hear this thunderous thump on the wall as John Ferguson hit the wall, and everything on your side would shake a little bit. He was very passionate, very emotional during the games. Oh, as a little tweener that snuck in behind Daniel Bertheumen, it's no goal. Waved off by Andy Van Helleman.
I had the good fortune of being in the San Jose Sharks organization for 2 years, and John Ferguson was one of our senior advisors, so I had a chance to spend a lot of time with him, and boy, did I ever learn a lot. I didn't ever see that side of John that you're talking about. I of course heard about it, and prior to my getting to know him, I was quite nervous when I was first going to start chatting with him and stuff, but boy, he was a really kind, gentle man.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And just as you were saying about Dave Semenko earlier,
right.
What a funny guy and a great guy, and Fergie was the same way. You know, another guy we should mention today, too, who passed away much too early, is Ken Fryer Nicholson. He was a play-by-play man for the Winnipeg Jets in the WHA and into the NHL. Left us far too early. And boy, would he have a blast with all these guys out here today. Might even got some of the names right.
We're doing our best, Jim. Come on.
.44 in the third period, and they're picking it up a little bit.
Mike Ford with the long stretch pass. I like it.
And Eddie Olczyk with the turnover. And here comes BJ with a backhander, and Craig Muni jumped in there and couldn't quite knock the puck out of the air into the net. Got a piece of it, though. Just like old times, BJ McDonald, who scored 46 goals in his rookie National Hockey League season, puts the Oilers in the lead in the third period for the first time.
Familiar spot, right? Just off the goal post, that right-handed shot. That's what I was saying earlier, you know, maybe some of the skills eroded, but the mind for the game hasn't.
You don't think he enjoyed that? Not just a little bit, but a whole lot. Oilers have the lead at the Alumni Classic, the Tim Hortons Heritage Classic. Great weekend in Winnipeg. Today's wonderful alumni gathering whets our appetite for what's to come tomorrow at Investors Group Field in Winnipeg. It's the 2016 Tim Hortons Heritage Classic. The Oilers against the Jets. 1:30 will be on the air. 2 o'clock, 2:30 for the Oilers and the Jets. Local time in Winnipeg. Scott.
Jim, a lot of people very happy that this era has been represented in this alumni game. The WHA final game in league history played in Winnipeg. 1978, Jets beat the Oilers 7-3 to win the Avco Cup in 6 games. The late Lars-Erik Schuberg accepted the trophy, and he's been well remembered here this week. The last goal in WHA history scored in that game by Dave Semenko, and a young Wayne Grettzky played for the Oilers that year. Of course, it was on to the NHL after that, and Grettzky would never lose as an Oiler a playoff series to the Jets again.
Many of them here and playing in this game, and there's a close miss for Darren Shannon. Just about tied this game up again. He's one of the guys who looks fit, looks like he always did when he played.
That's what I said to my friend Randy Gillen. I'll finish that story last night. He said, Randy, you still look great. And I said about myself that I've gained a bunch of weight and I look fat. And he said, well, things haven't changed. You were always fat.
Nice guy.
Old teammates can say that to each other.
Indeed. Here's Craig Simpson. Trying to give the Oilers a little breathing room, a little insurance marker here halfway through the third period. Taylor's gone to the front of the net. Centering pass didn't get through.
Vintage Dale Hawerchuk stopping a dime there, trying to find an open guy trailing the play.
That was Ryan Smith again. I wonder if Gretcki and Kurri had anything to do with the fact that Ryan Smith is now on their line.
Yeah, Wayne usually gets his way.
There's Teemu. Chris King. And a fine defensive effort for Jari Kurri.
Okay, so it's more competitive now. They're yelling now. They're talking on the ice. We didn't hear a lot of that chatter in the first period.
A great save by Cujo on Teemu Selanne. Now they've picked it up several notches here in the third period.
Wayne's not the biggest, strongest guy, but he's not going to lose puck battles like that. He wanted that puck back badly.
Andrew McBain with a nice touch. And Cujo with another nice save. The benches may not have been shortened yet, but they're all standing now. Everybody's into it.
How amazing is that?
Tim Waters along the boards, and Coffee starts out.
Good read by Koff.
There's Dave Lumley, who came over in the second intermission, introduced himself to Kelly Rudy, and Kelly said, "I know who you are." Davey said, "Oh, yeah, I thought you might think I was Bobby Orr."
Because he's playing defense
today.
No, I won't confuse you, Dave. There was only one Bobby Orr.
Dave played a lot of years on the line with Dave Hunter, and they had Kevin McClellan with them for a while. They were a good checking line.
The first time I ever played against the Oilers was with the Islanders at the time. It was on Long Island, and Dave Lumley scored on me in the second period, 5-hole, a slap shot. I'll never forget it. Well, of course I haven't. I'm talking about it then. I'm so mad at myself. And I'm thinking, man, this guy's got a better shot than I had ever expected.
He was a better scorer than some people gave him credit for. In fact, he got one season when he was up for a contract to get to play with Gretcki for a while.
He sure did. That usually helps going into a contract.
And here he is, speak of the devil. Here's the new defenseman, Bobby Orr, with Scott Oak.
Yeah, they're kind of confused as to whether you're Dave Lumley or Bobby Orr today.
Well, I felt like Bobby Orr out there. They put me on D, and I think they wasted my talent all these years. I should have been back there the whole time. I would have been an all-star.
There's no need for you to introduce yourself to Kelly Rudy. He remembers when you scored a 5-hole on him.
Well, many a time. There was probably 10 or 11 5-holes. I'm just throwing it out there. Sorry, buddy.
I'll tell you something else, Dave. You get the award for the oldest pair of skates in this alumni game. Where did you dig those out of the garage somewhere?
Stanley Cup winners from '85.
Wow.
Yeah, I've just never changed them. I've worn them all these games, and they're 50 goal scorer skates too.
How many seasons did it take to get to that?
3 years, but they were all pretty. So let's just drop it right there.
Great, thanks, Dave. Good to talk to you.
You too, man. Thanks.
Oh, nice. Who has more fun than people?
Yeah, these people.
Yeah. It's great to see them all having such a good time, and in a game that is now 5-4 for the Oilers with just over 6 minutes to go in the third period. They'll be happy when the game ends in some ways, in others not, because it's been a terrific few days, and will continue. One of the great things the Oilers did, Kelly, last night was they had an event where they had all of these players, the alumni, got together with the new players and exchanged stories. They spent the evening together, just the players, and trying to bridge a little bit of a gap, because the new Oilers for years and years have had to live with it on their shoulders that the other guys, it's the alumni that won the Stanley Cups, and you guys have never been able to live up to it. I think last night they found out that these guys are on their side. They're all in the same boat. We'll take a short break at the Heritage Classic from Winnipeg. Canucks taking on Ryan Getzlaf and the Anaheim Ducks. That's tomorrow on Sportsnet. Today it's the Alumni Classic, at the Tim Hortons Heritage Classic in Winnipeg. Dale Hawerchuk and the Winnipeg Jets playing catch-up against the Oilers. Again, Mark Messьer has a couple of goals in the afternoon. And here's a chance for a break. Simpson defers to Anderson. What a save. The bend that robs the Oilers again.
Burt with his best save of the afternoon. I like it. Showing that he has actually been practicing for a couple of months.
What do we say about the two-pad stack?
What?
We'd eventually see it.
Nice technique. Waited till Glenn had his head down, then charged out a little bit.
Classic butterfly.
Right.
No, Tommy McVie sent this line of Hawerchuk, King, and Selanne out here a lot.
He's really coaching. Watching him behind the bench.
He's watching intently. He's all over it.
He's into it. Well, Ab and Serge are as well.
And another big save by Daniel Berthiaume. Straight time here, so the Jets are really running out of time.
So Dan holding his team in. Slick little backhand pass, and that's looking a little bit more like the current goaltenders. Nice butterfly coming across. He just looks a little bit shorter than most of the guys now.
Coffee and Huddy paired together. Gretcki, Curry, and Ryan Smith still playing together for the Oilers.
What a pairing Huddy and Coffee were, right? Coff had the green light to do anything he wanted, and Charlie protected him and
was happy to do so.
And stay at home. He was so sneaky good himself, and most people don't recognize it. Charlie had one of the best slap shots in the game himself.
And what a lot of wisdom he can impart as a coach now for defensive players.
Yeah.
Charlie was going to lead that rush.
Maybe not.
Once he got to the bench, he decided better of it. Here's Teemu. Wow. Chris King just tied this up. And was that a body check I saw, or was it an accidental collision?
No, that's a body check. There will be no review, and that is just vintage Teemu, right? Great speed through the neutral zone. Throws it in front. I take that back. I don't give him enough credit. He knew that Chris King was right there. He didn't just throw it in front. He passed it to him.
How slick is Tommy McVie? He had a premonition that this was going to be the line to do it for him. And Chris King, playing with Hawerchuk and Selanne, has 4 points.
Premonition?
If anybody's counting.
Premonition, or just throw up fit guys?
So a 5-5 tie. Uh-oh, we may have to go to the commissioner and find out what happens if the third period ends in a tie.
Frankly, I am wondering.
I think they've just made an executive decision that if it's tied, they'll go to a shootout.
All right. I'm sure the goalies are thrilled.
Still a couple of minutes, and one of these teams could end it. Laurie Boschman with a long shot. Curtis Joseph stopped. Edmonton, one of the 5 teams that Cujo played on where he won 30.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to what you're saying. I didn't want to get hit in the head with a puck or a stick. I heard something about Cujo winning.
30 a few times.
Yeah, there you go. One would have been nice for me.
There's a Coffee rush and a shot. Pretty good one, too. Another rush for Teemu with just over a minute to go. Slick move by Ducky.
Once again, you can't teach a mind for the game, right? That was just sweet to watch. You can teach skills and all sorts of things, but not a mind for the game.
Selanne gives off to Hawerchuk, and watch this.
Beauty.
They've actually stopped the clock to give them a timeout here, and Tommy McVie is given all sorts of directions here on the bench.
Dan Berthume barking out some orders I couldn't quite understand.
Just over 30 seconds to go in a 5-5 tie, and maybe we'll see a shootout. I guarantee you the Oiler coaches will use Gretcki.
I would think. So Mess is going to take the face off against Hawerchuk. How many times do you think this happened in their careers?
Hundreds.
Yes.
Messьer with a little regroup, and Simpson and Anderson get into the attacking zone. Tempo Numminen out to play against this Oiler line. Oh, and a big trip, and down goes Selanne, and with just a dozen seconds to go, Simpson has given the Jets a chance to win this on a penalty shot.
Well, normally, as a color analyst, I'd rip a guy for taking a bad penalty like that, but I can't. He's on our broadcast team. So Craig accidentally fell and inadvertently tripped Selanne,
which gives us the opportunity to see Teemu Selanne, and here it is on a penalty shot.
See? That was accidental. The video
Absolutely.
is obvious. That wasn't a penalty by Craig.
Here we go, Selanne on a penalty shot to win it. Well, these fans can thank Craig Simpson. He's got an eye for a good show. He's got theatrics in him, and he knew that this is what these 33,000 people wanted to see.
Unfair to have hands like that, right?
(6-5), and there'll be a drop of the puck, and the Jets will beat the Oilers.
Charlie Huddy asking Curtis Joseph to leave his net for the extra attacker. There's still hope.
Under 4 seconds, they'll have to be quick, and there was a day when they might have been quick enough.
I like that. Most likely not tonight.
Not likely tonight. Kelly's got a long night ahead of him. We've got full hockey night in Canada broadcasts coming up. It'll be hosted from here in Winnipeg tonight. Had a great time being with you this afternoon, so have fun this evening and watching the real game, and I hope you can keep up after this.
Thanks, pal. My pleasure. It's been awesome working with you. Well, they've extended the clock.
Suddenly an extra minute went on the clock. So Glenn Sather is controlling the clock here, I'd say.
He's standing now, too. He just had his knee replaced. And been seated most of the show, but no.
Before Teemu could bury the puck into the empty net, the Alumni Classic is over. Arch rivals for so many years through the 80s into the 90s. Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers together again as one, as alumni of two great National Hockey League franchises. And to cap this off, there'll not only be handshakes, but there'll be a tremendous group picture. And then they'll go back to the same dressing room.
I haven't seen that in a long time. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Good boy, Spitting. Thanks. Good boy, David. Thank you. Hey, Wilbur. You knew the team when we needed to get that. Congrats. Rock. Yeah, baby. Good job, guys. How'd it go? Good job, Peter. Good job, yeah. Awesome. Another one. Thank you.
Oilers and Jets, maybe for one last time with these characters involved. Gretcki and old pal Eddie Meal and Grant Fuhr. Two great goaltenders and the greatest player ever. Or as he would be quick to point out, maybe one of them. Perfect ending for Teemu Selanne. A penalty shot to win the alumni game for the Winnipeg Jets, 6-5. Players will gather for a photo. There'll be a check presentation here from the Winnipeg Jets to the Edmonton Oilers Foundation. And then they'll retire to the dressing room that they share and likely tell a few more stories from years gone by. Dale Hawerchuk was instrumental in making this event happen. Once Mark Chipman and the Winnipeg Jets organization had decided they were going to do this, in stepped Hawerchuk to help make sure that all the right players were represented in the lineup. And here is Scott with Mark Chipman.
Okay, Jim, thanks very much. Only got a few seconds because he's got to go on the ice, but tell me about the check presentation.
A token of our, I guess,
appreciation
and deep respect for the Oilers for being a part of this and for the incredible work that their foundation does in Northern Alberta. It's just so thankful and grateful that they were a part of this.
All right, where you go.
Thank you.
So this check from the Jets in appreciation of the Oilers' presence here today will go to the Oiler Foundation and its charities. And
Ladies
this is
and
a check
gentlemen,
for
please
$100
direct your
grand.
attention to center ice for a special presentation. The Winnipeg Jets are honored to be hosting the Edmonton Oilers and are deeply grateful for their contribution to the Heritage Classic. As a token of our sincere appreciation and to acknowledge the incredible work the Oilers do for their community, True North Youth Foundation Chairman Mark Chipman is pleased to present Bob Nicholson of the Oilers with a check in the amount of $100,000 to further support the efforts of the Edmonton Oiler Community Foundation.
Never before have these organizations worked in such harmony as they have today. Shared a dressing room, brought back old times, played a game against each other, and now together help some wonderful charities in Manitoba and in Alberta. Teemu Selanne won the game for the Jets, and here he is with Scott.
How appropriate. The Jets hero in this game is Teemu Selanne, 5 points, 2 penalty shot goals. Just tell me what the day meant to you.
Well, obviously the score is the one thing, but you know, what a creative feeling here in this arena, and you know, playing against legends and playing with legends, that's unbelievable. And in front of the Winnipeg unbelievable fans, it's a great night.
Now, if you do the math, when you left here, your wife Serpa was pregnant with your first child. So your kids have never really had a chance to see you in a Jets sweater. And you have a few of them here today. How special was that?
It was really special, and obviously my wife even painted her fingernails with the Winnipeg Jets logo. So the whole family was behind this weekend, and obviously it's a great experience for all of us.
I want to ask you about the scoring. The end of the game, the 5-4 winner on the penalty shot. Craig Simpson, as we like to say, inadvertently hauled you down.
Yeah, he got the assist.
Yeah, that's how we have to describe it because he's in our broadcast crew. But what were you thinking on the penalty shot?
Yeah, no, I have three things what I usually try, and I just make the decision when I go. I always watch first if the goalie comes out. If he doesn't come, I shoot, and that 5-0 was pretty normal shot for me, and what a great ending. That's awesome.
See, now you're speaking like you're still playing, and you've only retired, what, 2.5 years ago. When's the last time you were on skates?
You know what? I have skated twice in 2 years, so I think if I would practice 2 weeks hard, I could play back in the NHL. So, but I won't. Don't worry about that.
So I thought for a moment you're going to announce your comeback there.
No, not a chance. There's a reason for that why I'm not playing.
Get to the phone.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, don't want Teemu Selanne to miss the photo. The star of the game, the man who scored the game winner. And this will be a wonderful keepsake for all of these players and their families. From the Heritage Classic in Winnipeg. Many of them on the Oilers side played in that first Heritage Classic that spawned so many wonderful outdoor events in Canada and the United States. And now back in Canada, where the city of Winnipeg has embraced this week like few other places can. It seems so special when the outdoor games come to Canada and the whole city gets a chance to take part. It happened in Edmonton, it happened in Calgary, Vancouver, and now in Winnipeg. Great show by the Jets and the Oilers. Hall of Famers all. And tomorrow they'll turn it over to today's National Hockey League players. The future stars that are now the superstars. We'll see Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers up against Patrick Laine, Mark Scheifele and the Winnipeg Jets tomorrow afternoon, and we can only hope that the weather is just like this. It was very sunny earlier today and might have been too bright to play. But if we get a nice cloud cover like this and temperatures like this, it will be a spectacular show because the ice is terrific. Oilers and the Jets, 2 big points available tomorrow. Paul Coffey, Glenn Anderson, Mike Krushelnyski, their training staff, Peter Miller. They brought back all the trainers from these teams from the 80s, the equipment managers and trainers, so that they could all get together. Those that were so important to each other. Through a generation that was second to none. Superstars all, Stanley Cup winners, Hall of Famers. What a show. For the record, the Winnipeg Jets finally beat the Oilers. They got them 6-5 today in a terrific atmosphere. Stand by, lots more hockey to come. Hockey Central Saturday is next.
The following is a presentation of Hockey Night in Canada in association with the National Hockey League.